One of the biggest lessons I learned after retiring at 62, after 30 years working in warehouse and distribution operations, is that looking poor is actually one of the smartest things you can do if you want real freedom in your life. And I don't mean pretending to be broke. I mean choosing to live below your means on purpose. Let me explain what I mean by that. The first reason is simple. It doesn't matter how much you earn during your career. What matters is how much you manage to keep. I spent over 30 years working my way up from dispatcher to operations manager at a logistics company. I saw guys making six figures who had nothing saved. Over half the people in this country making $100,000 or more say they save nothing every year. Nothing. And when I hit 62 and walked into my boss's office and told him I was done, the only reason I could do that was because Linda and I had been living below our means for years. We adjusted our budget, we downsized, and we made it work. If you're going to go to work every day, if you're going to carry all that responsibility, you should be able to look back on the last 12 months and say, okay, I made some progress. I got a little closer to freedom. Living below your means is what lets you do that. It keeps you from falling into lifestyle creep every time you get a raise. It keeps you from putting things on credit cards that you can't actually afford. And trust me, after watching my 401k shrink during the great financial crisis, I learned real fast that the money you don't spend is the money that protects you. The second reason, and this one's not really about money at all, is that looking poor helps you find your people. Your real people. When Linda and I stopped trying to keep up with what everybody else was doing, we started attracting friends who actually thought like us. People who wanted to sit on the porch and talk, not people who needed a fancy dinner to feel good about themselves. I think a lot of us, especially folks who've worked blue-collar jobs our whole lives, we're naturally a little frugal. That's just who we are. And when you stop pretending to be something you're not, you find your tribe, the people you actually enjoy being around, the ones who don't make you feel like you need to spend money to be worth something. The third thing is that living within your means actually opens the door to more adventures, not fewer. I'll give you an example. Linda and I love to travel. Nothing fancy. We'll drive somewhere, stay at a reasonable place, eat where the locals eat. We looked at buying a lake house about 2 hours north a few years back. Beautiful spot. But when we sat down and did the math, between the mortgage, insurance, maintenance, and all the driving back and forth, it made way more sense to just rent a place on Airbnb whenever we felt like getting away. And honestly, that gave us more variety, more flexibility, and more freedom to explore different places instead of being tied down to one property with all its headaches. By not overextending ourselves, we've had more adventures than most people who spent twice what we did. Number 4, and I'll be honest, this piece of wisdom didn't come from my years in logistics or from any financial advisor. It came from a song. Sheryl Crow, Soak Up the Sun. There's a line in there that goes something like, "It's not about having what you want, it's about wanting what you've got." And when I first really heard that, I mean really heard it, it hit me. That's true for stuff. It's true for the things we own and the things we think we need. But it's also true for people. For Linda. For my kids. For the friends who stuck around when things were tough. It's about choosing wisely who you spend your time with. And sometimes it means pruning people out of your life who are constantly pushing you to spend money you don't want to spend, or live a lifestyle that isn't really you. If that's their thing, fine. But if it's not yours, you've got to protect your peace. And the fifth reason, maybe the most important one, is that looking poor gives you flexibility. Real flexibility. Both now and later. When I kept my living expenses low, it gave me the freedom to walk away from my job at 62 instead of grinding until 67 or 70. It gave me the option to regroup, to figure out what I actually wanted to do with this next chapter. If you're living beyond your means, you get trapped. You lose options. You can't pivot. And when you hit your 50s and 60s, what I like to call the youth of your senior years, you don't want to be stuck. You want choices. Because here's what I've learned as someone who's been through it. Not as a financial advisor. I'm definitely not one of those. But as someone who watched his father have a massive stroke at 59 and spend his last years in assisted living. Life is short. Healthy life is even shorter. In this country, the average number of healthy years after retirement is barely over a year. That's it. So the less you spend, the more flexibility you have. And that flexibility is what lets you actually live, not just survive. Live.